Have you ever stayed in a situation, not because it was right, but because walking away felt harder than staying? You knew something was off. Your energy was draining, your peace was shrinking, yet you told yourself, maybe I'm overreacting. Or worse, I should endure this. Stoicism doesn't teach blind endurance, it teaches discernment. As Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, you have power over your mind, not outside events. And one of the greatest uses of that power is knowing when to step back. Not in anger, not in drama, but in clarity. Because staying in the wrong place doesn't make you loyal. It makes you disconnected from your own values. In this video, you'll learn 7 warning signs every Stoic recognizes. Signs that it's time to walk away calmly, without guilt and without burning bridges. This isn't about quitting. It's about choosing peace over attachment and wisdom over habit. Let's begin. 1. You're constantly explaining yourself. One of the first warning signs a Stoic notices is subtle but exhausting. You feel the need to constantly explain yourself, your intentions, your boundaries, your decisions. You speak clearly, you stay calm, you even repeat yourself, politely. And still, you're misunderstood, or worse, ignored. At first, it feels reasonable. Maybe I didn't say it well. Maybe they need more context. Maybe one more explanation will fix it. But here's the Stoic truth most people miss. Respect does not require repetition. When someone truly respects you, they don't need a long speech to understand where you stand. They listen once, they adjust, they act accordingly. Constant explanation is not communication, it's self-defense. And every time you defend yourself unnecessarily, you quietly give up ground. Epictetus warned against this trap centuries ago when he said that if you want to improve, you must be willing to appear foolish or misunderstood at times. Why? Because clarity does not always come with approval. And chasing approval is how you lose authority over your own life. Think about it. If someone repeatedly crosses a line you've clearly drawn, the problem isn't your wording, it's their lack of regard. Stoicism teaches that words are secondary. Behavior is the truth. A person who values you adjusts their behavior after clarity is given. A person who doesn't will ask for endless explanations, not to understand you, but to wear you down. And this is where many people betray themselves. They keep explaining because walking away feels too harsh. They fear being seen as cold, unreasonable, or dramatic. So they stay. They justify, or they over-communicate. But a Stoic understands something vital. When explanation becomes a pattern, it's no longer about clarity, it's about control. The moment you notice yourself rehearsing conversations in your head, the moment your messages get longer and heavier, the moment you feel anxious after speaking your truth, that's your signal. Not to argue, not to convince, but to pause. The Stoic response is quiet and powerful. You stop explaining. You observe actions instead of promises. You let silence reveal what words were hiding. Because silence has a way of doing what explanations never can. It exposes intent. If someone steps up when you stop talking, there was respect all along. If they disappear, deflect, or grow irritated, you've learned everything you need to know. But here's the Stoic principle to remember. You are not responsible for making yourself understood by someone who refuses to listen. Walking away at this stage isn't rude. It isn't weakness. It's self-respect. And the Stoic never abandons that. Mantra: respect doesn't need translation. When you're ready, we move to the second sign. The moment your inner peace stops being yours. 2. Your peace depends on their mood. Another warning sign appears when your inner state is no longer yours. Your day feels fine until you interact with them. Their tone shifts and suddenly your chest tightens. They're distant, and you start questioning yourself. They're irritated, and you feel the urge to fix it. Without realizing it, your peace has become conditional. This is where Stoicism draws a hard line. A Stoic understands that when your calm depends on someone else's mood, you've handed them control over your inner world. Marcus Aurelius warned against this exact mistake when he reminded himself that no one can disturb your mind unless you allow it. The danger isn't their emotions. The danger is your attachment to managing them. At first, this dependency disguises itself as care. I just want things to be smooth. I don't like tension. I want harmony. But harmony built on emotional self-betrayal is not harmony. It's emotional submission. Notice the pattern. You scan their face before speaking. You adjust your behavior to keep them stable. You delay your truth to avoid their reaction. That's not connection. That's walking on eggshells. Stoicism teaches emotional sovereignty, the ability to remain grounded regardless of external turbulence. Not cold, not indifferent, but self-governed. Here's the uncomfortable truth. When someone knows your peace depends on their mood, even unconsciously, the dynamic becomes unbalanced. They don't have to threaten you. Your anxiety does the work for them. And the longer you stay, and the more your nervous system learns the wrong lesson, my safety depends on someone else's emotional state. A Stoic interrupts this conditioning early. The correct response is not confrontation, it's recalibration. You slow your reactions. You stop chasing emotional weather. You reclaim your rhythm, your routines, your breath, your internal order. And you observe. If someone respects you, they adjust when you stop orbiting their emotions. If they don't, the tension increases, and clarity arrives. Remember this Stoic law. Your peace is your responsibility. Guard it like a fortress. If staying requires constant emotional monitoring, it's already costing you too much. And that's when a Stoic begins to consider walking away. Not in anger, but in self-command. When you're ready, and we move to the third sign, the moment boundaries stop meaning anything at all. 3. Your boundaries are repeatedly ignored. A Stoic doesn't walk away the first time a boundary is crossed. Mistakes happen, misunderstandings happen, but when a boundary is clearly stated and repeatedly ignored, that's no longer a misunderstanding, that's information. You explain what's acceptable, you state what doesn't work for you. You stay calm, you stay respectful, and yet nothing changes. They interrupt again, they push again, they test the line again. Stoicism teaches a hard but liberating truth. A boundary that isn't respected is not a boundary. It's a suggestion, and suggestions invite negotiation. Negotiation invites erosion. Erosion leads to resentment. This is how people lose themselves quietly. Many stay because they confuse patience with virtue. But the Stoics never taught endless tolerance, and they taught self-respect anchored in reason. Marcus Aurelius wrote about dealing with difficult people by remembering your principles, not by sacrificing them. A boundary exists to protect your character, not to provoke agreement. Here's the key distinction a Stoic makes. You don't need to argue for a boundary. You don't need to justify it. You only need to enforce it. And enforcement doesn't require anger. It requires consequence. When someone ignores your boundary and you stay anyway, you teach them something dangerous, that your limits are flexible when pressure is applied. But when you quietly reduce access, fewer conversations, less availability, more distance, the message becomes clear without a single extra word. This is where many people hesitate. They fear being too harsh. They worry about seeming cold or unreasonable. But Stoicism isn't concerned with appearances. It's concerned with alignment. Ask yourself this. If someone truly valued you, would they need to cross the same line again and again to understand where it is? Repeated boundary violations are not accidents. They're tests. And a Stoic does not fail the same test twice. When boundaries lose meaning, walking away is no longer dramatic. It's logical. Because staying where your limits are ignored doesn't make you kind. It makes you available for disrespect. And the Stoic refuses that trade. Next, we'll move to the fourth sign. The moment your energy tells a truth your mind keeps avoiding. 4. You feel drained, not strengthened. This sign doesn't announce itself loudly. It whispers through your body, your energy, your silence afterward. After spending time with them, you don't feel clearer. You don't feel steadier. You feel tired in a way rest doesn't fix. At first, you rationalize it. Maybe I'm just stressed. It was a long day. I'm being too sensitive. But Stoicism teaches you to trust patterns, not excuses. Ask yourself honestly, when you leave their presence, do you feel more grounded, or more confused, more focused, or more scattered, more yourself, or slightly diminished? Because here's a Stoic truth many avoid. What consistently drains you is teaching you something. Relationships, environments, even conversations are not neutral. They either sharpen you or dull you. They either reinforce your values or quietly pull you away from them. Seneca warned that we absorb the character of those we spend time with, often without noticing. Not because they force us, but because proximity is influence, and influence doesn't always come through words. It comes through tone, through tension, through unspoken pressure. You may notice subtle signs. You replay conversations long after they end. You second-guess things you never doubted before. You feel the need to recover after interacting with them. That recovery time is data. A Stoic pays attention to energy not in a mystical sense, but in a physiological and psychological one. Your nervous system reacts before your intellect catches up. When something is misaligned, your body knows first. And here's the dangerous part. The longer you ignore this signal, the more you normalize it. You begin to think exhaustion is just part of connection. That tension is the price of loyalty. That peace is something you'll earn later. But Stoicism rejects this logic completely. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. The same is true of its surroundings. If an environment consistently leaves you agitated, defensive, or depleted, it is reshaping you, whether you admit it or not. This is why Stoics regularly step back and audit their lives. Not dramatically, not emotionally, but honestly. A simple practice reveals everything. After each significant interaction, pause and ask, do I feel expanded or contracted? Clear or cloudy? Stronger or weaker? Write the answer down. Do this for a week. What emerges is not a single bad moment, but a pattern of cost. And patterns don't lie. Many people stay because the drain feels familiar. They confuse familiarity with safety, but a Stoic knows that comfort and alignment are not the same thing. You're not meant to feel energized by every interaction. Life has friction. Growth has strain, but there is a difference between constructive challenge and chronic depletion. One strengthens you over time, the other slowly erodes your clarity, confidence, and self-trust. Stoicism demands this question be answered without sentimentality. Is this making me better, or merely busier inside my own head? If the answer keeps pointing toward exhaustion, walking away is not avoidance. It is maintenance of the self. Because the Stoic rule is simple and uncompromising. What repeatedly weakens you does not deserve unlimited access to your life. And once you accept that, you stop arguing with your own energy. Next, we move to the fifth sign, when you're no longer staying for who they are now, but for who they used to be. 5. You're staying for who they used to be. This is one of the most subtle traps of all. You're not staying because the present feels right. You're staying because the past felt meaningful. You remember how they used to show up, how things used to flow, how safe, easy, or inspiring it once felt. And every time the present disappoints you, the mind retreats into memory. They weren't always like this. Something changed. If I'm patient, we'll get back there. Stoicism calls this what it is: attachment to an illusion of time. Marcus Aurelius warned against living anywhere except the present moment, not because the past has no value, but because it has no authority over today's decisions. The Stoic evaluates reality as it is, not as it was, and not as it might become. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Past behavior does not justify present harm. Potential does not compensate for pattern. Memory does not outweigh reality. When you stay for who someone used to be, you silently accept who they are now, while pretending you haven't. And this creates a split inside you. One part of you knows something is wrong. The other keeps negotiating with history. This internal conflict is exhausting. Seneca wrote that suffering often comes not from events themselves, but from our judgments about them. Clinging to an earlier version of someone is a judgment that the past is more real than the present. But Stoicism teaches adaptation, not nostalgia. People change, circumstances shift, and sometimes the version you loved no longer exists. This doesn't make you disloyal, it makes you aware. And the Stoic does not demand that life remain frozen in a moment that once felt right. They adjust their actions when conditions change. Ask yourself this, honestly and without blame. If this situation had always been exactly like it is today, with no shared history, no memories, no emotional debt, would you choose to stay? If the answer is no, then the decision is already made. You're not honoring the past by sacrificing the present. You're postponing clarity. Stoicism reminds us that wisdom means letting go of what no longer aligns, even if it once did. Because staying loyal to memory while betraying your current values is not virtue. It's avoidance dressed as patience, and the Stoic chooses reality over nostalgia every time. Next, we move to the sixth sign. When walking away feels like failure, even though staying costs you far more. 6. Walking away feels like failure. This is the point where many people get stuck the longest. You don't stay because things are good. You stay because leaving feels like losing. Losing time, losing effort, losing the image of being patient, strong, or committed. Somewhere along the way, endurance became tied to your identity. So walking away feels like admitting defeat. Stoicism dismantles this illusion immediately. The Stoics never glorified suffering for its own sake. They valued reasoned endurance, not stubborn attachment. Epictetus made this clear when he taught that wisdom lies not in what you endure, but in why you endure it. If the cost violates your values, endurance is no longer virtue. It becomes self-abandonment. Ask yourself this without emotion, only reason. What exactly would walking away fail? Your ego? Your pride? Was your past self who believed things would work out? Because it's rarely your character that's at risk. It's your image. Staying often feels safer because it preserves a story. At least I didn't quit. At least I tried. At least I'm not the kind of person who gives up. But Stoicism asks a harder question. What kind of person are you becoming by staying? Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily that a good life is defined by alignment with reason and virtue, not by how long one tolerates misalignment. There is nothing noble about consistency with what no longer makes sense. Here's the reframe a Stoic adopts. Walking away is not retreat. It's course correction. A ship changing direction to avoid rocks has not failed its journey. It has preserved it. Yet many people hesitate because they fear judgment, from others and from themselves. They imagine being seen as cold, dramatic, or weak. But Stoicism is not concerned with appearances. It is concerned with integrity. Integrity means your actions reflect your values, even when it costs you comfort or pride. If staying requires you to numb yourself, shrink your truth, or rationalize harm, then the real failure would be ignoring what reason is clearly showing you. A Stoic understands this deeply. Leaving what harms your character is not failure. It is fidelity to who you are becoming. And once that truth settles in, the weight lifts. You stop asking, "What will this look like?" and start asking, "What is this costing me?" When the answer becomes clear, walking away no longer feels like defeat. It feels like discipline. Next, we arrive at the final and most decisive sign, the one that leaves no room for compromise. There is another layer beneath this feeling of failure that Stoicism exposes with brutal honesty. Often, what you're really afraid of losing isn't the situation itself. It's the meaning you attached to it. You invested time, you invested hope, you invested identity, so leaving feels like saying all of that was wasted. But the Stoics rejected this thinking long before modern psychology gave it a name. They understood that clinging to something simply because you've already paid a price is irrational. Past cost does not create present obligation. What matters is not how much you've invested, but what continuing will demand from you now. Many people keep going because stopping forces a painful realization. I chose this, and now I must choose differently. That moment requires humility. And Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself that changing one's mind in the face of better understanding is not weakness. It is intelligence in motion. Refusing to adjust simply to protect pride is how people stay trapped. And here is where Stoic discipline becomes visible. A Stoic does not ask, "How do I avoid regret?" They ask, "What decision aligns with reason today?" Regret doesn't come from leaving too early. It comes from staying too long after clarity arrives. Think carefully about this. If you knew with certainty that nothing would change, not tomorrow, not next year, would you still stay? If the answer is no, then you're not choosing endurance. You're postponing discomfort. Stoicism does not delay necessary pain. It chooses the clean cut over the slow bleed. And walking away feels like failure only when your self-worth is tied to outcomes instead of principles. When you anchor your worth to virtue, to honesty, courage, and self-respect, the narrative flips. Leaving becomes an act of courage. Staying becomes the easier option. And the Stoic path has never been about what's easy. This is why Stoics accept temporary loss to avoid permanent distortion of character. They understand that discipline sometimes looks like restraint, and sometimes it looks like departure. When you walk away at this stage, you're not erasing the past, you're preventing it from owning your future. That's not failure, that's authorship. And once you recognize that, the fear dissolves, replaced by something quieter, steadier, and far more powerful: self-command. Now, we're ready for the final sign, the one that makes walking away no longer a choice, but a necessity. 7. You're betraying your own values to stay. This is the final sign, the one a Stoic never negotiates with, the one that ends all inner debate. You notice it when you start acting against your own values just to keep the situation alive. You stay silent when something feels wrong. You laugh things off that quietly offend you. You tolerate behavior you would never respect in yourself. And each time, you tell yourself it's temporary, that it's strategic, that you're being the bigger person. But Stoicism is very clear about this. No external bond is worth internal fracture. The moment staying requires you to abandon your principles, the cost has become absolute. At first, the compromises seem small. You don't speak up this time. You let it slide once more. You tell yourself, this isn't the hill to die on. But hills accumulate. And then slowly, almost imperceptibly, you begin to drift from yourself. Seneca warned that the greatest loss a person can suffer is the loss of integrity. Because everything else can be rebuilt, integrity cannot. Once you train yourself to override your own moral signal, confusion follows. You stop trusting your instincts. You hesitate before saying what you know is true. You become careful instead of clear. This is not peace. This is self-censorship. A Stoic understands that values are not abstract ideals. They are daily behaviors. How you speak when it's uncomfortable. What you tolerate when no one is watching. Where you draw the line even if it costs you connection. Marcus Aurelius wrote that if something is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. Simple words, but ruthless in application. Ask yourself this without drama or self-blame. Have I had to lie to myself to stay? Have I silenced my conscience for the sake of harmony? Have I accepted treatment that contradicts who I believe I am? If the answer is yes, then the situation has already crossed the line. And here's the crucial Stoic distinction. Compromise in strategy is wisdom. Compromise in values is decay. Many people confuse the two. They think being flexible means being virtuous, but Stoicism demands flexibility only in what is external, not in what defines your character. When you betray your values to keep the peace, you don't actually preserve peace. You internalize conflict. The tension doesn't disappear. It moves inward. You may not argue, you may not protest, but something inside you begins to resist. That resistance shows up as fatigue, as irritability, as a quiet sense of being out of place in your own life. And this is why Stoics are uncompromising here. You can lose people, you can lose opportunities, you can lose comfort, but if you lose alignment with your own principles, you lose the only thing that allows you to stand firmly anywhere. Walking away at this stage is no longer about preference. It is about self-preservation. A Stoic does not announce this decision. They do not explain it endlessly. They do not demand understanding. They simply stop participating in what requires them to be someone they are not. There is no anger in this, no revenge, no drama, only clarity. Because once you see that staying requires self-betrayal, there is nothing left to discuss. Epictetus taught that freedom is not the absence of constraint, but the ability to live in accordance with your nature. When a situation demands you act against your nature, against your reason, your sense of right, it becomes a form of captivity, and the Stoic refuses captivity of the soul. This is the quiet strength most people never develop. The strength to walk away without needing validation. The strength to disappoint others without disappointing yourself. The strength to choose character over comfort. Many people ask, how do I know it's really time? Stoicism answers plainly. When staying costs you your integrity, the time has already passed. Walking away then is not abandonment, it is returning home to yourself. And once you do, something remarkable happens. The noise settles, the inner conflict dissolves. Your decisions regain weight and clarity. You no longer feel divided. And this is why Stoics treat this final sign as non-negotiable. Because everything else, confusion, exhaustion, doubt, can be worked through. But character is either intact or it isn't. And the Stoic rule is unwavering. Lose anything, but never lose yourself. When you honor that rule, walking away stops feeling like loss. It feels like restoration, and from that place, every next step becomes clear. Knowing when to walk away is not an act of weakness. It is one of the highest forms of Stoic discipline. Throughout this video, you've seen the pattern clearly. When explanation replaces respect, when peace depends on others, when boundaries are ignored, when energy is drained, when you cling to the past, when leaving feels like failure, and finally, when staying costs you your values. Stoicism never asks you to endure what destroys your character. It asks you to choose clarity over attachment, integrity over comfort, and peace over ego. Walking away, calmly and without resentment, is not quitting, it is alignment. If one rule stayed with you, hold on to this. Lose nothing but what costs you yourself. Choose wisely, and move forward in strength.